Hello, Forecaster here again, and we are back for episode 141. And in this episode, we are finally going to try out the new coolant processing system properly and do some tests and see if it actually works or not. So, first, I'm going to show you this. So, in between this episode and the last one, I've been making some coolant. And I got tired of waiting for the solar distillers up top to produce distilled water for me. So, since I had an extra condenser and the components prepared for an extra boiler, because I thought I would need two each of these, when it turns out I didn't, I decided to grab it and use it. So I've been stealing heat from this fluid heat generator. It's currently pointing to this blast furnace, but I turned it down towards the boiler when I was using it, of course. And I've been pumping water, or allowing water to flow into it. And this produces steam, of course. Then the condenser turns that back into water. And since the steam turns into distilled water, I can use that to make coolant. And this way is a lot faster than the solar distillers, of course, but it is not free. It uses fuel, and I pretty much emptied this tank. There wasn't a lot left, but I used the last one, so I had to refill it. So I've been using this to make steam and then turn the steam back into distilled water. Now, as you can see, we have a bunch of calcification here. And that is, of course, because I've been using regular water, because I wouldn't use distilled water because that's what I want to produce. So, and the reason this water looks weird is because this pipe is colored light blue. So this is actually regular water in this pipe. But yeah, so we have some calcification buildup here because I've been using impure water. And if this were to reach 100%, then the steam generator would stop working, which would be a bad thing. You would have to basically break it and replace it to get rid of it. And of course, then it can't work. You'll have to reset it to whatever settings you had, and you'd lose any heat it had, and water, of course, which isn't a big deal, of course. But yeah, so I've been producing lots and lots of coolant. And we're basically just going to head down to the reactor now and give it a spin. I have been running it a little, so to speak, to allow the system to fill up with hot coolant, so that I can see how much I needed to make. I've also put some upgrades in this elevator, some speed upgrades, but it doesn't seem as fast as it should be right now for some reason. I also put camo on the platform, as you can see. So each of these elevator bases has 2 speed upgrades in them. If you just put speed upgrades in one of these stacks, only that stack will be faster, and the other 3 will be as slow as they were before, which would of course be a bad thing. So you have to put speed upgrades in each stack. So as you can see, we have lots of unused coolant right now, and we have a full buffer of hot coolant. Now I've decided to keep this tank as just one block because we have a lot of storage over here as well. So it adds up to 64 buckets anyway, plus what's in the pipe, so it's quite a lot anyway. But yeah, so I also put in the heat conductors here, of course, the missing ones, which I found upstairs. They were in a crate somewhere. I put them. But yeah, so what we are going to do is we are going to allow this to run. We're going to produce more power. You can see I've been running it a little bit because it has built up heat. we have produced some power here. I put the turbines in here, and what we're going to see is if the reactor can keep up with the rate this uses hot coolant, or processes hot coolant. Because if the reactor does not produce enough heat, if it doesn't produce more heat than the system uses, then this is eventually going to run out. And then the hoppers are going to run out. And then one of these liquid heat exchangers are going to get all of the coolant that is produced, and we are no longer going to be inputting 200 heat units per tick into the steam generator, which means it's not going to be able to produce superheated steam, which means it will just sit there and eat heat and not do anything with it, because because we have set the pressure to 221 bars, this will only output distilled water until it reaches about this temperature and just above it, and then it will start outputting superheated steam. Otherwise it will not output anything other than water. But without further ado, we're going to turn off my manual override. I'm going to have a little bit of an explosion because, well, I don't know why that happens, but whatever. Now we're going to see coolant start draining out of there, particularly while these buffers fill up, and then this pipe is going to empty back into here, and once the pipe is drained, the reactor is going to have to start keeping up. Now it's not going to, because of this control here that controls the reactor depending on the level in this tank, the reactor is not going to... Oh. Okay. So that's slightly interesting. Okay, so what is happening here, I realize, is that the tank is draining a little bit into this pipe here, but then this pipe immediately fills it back up. And that causes the tank full action to trigger multiple times. There's a way we can fix that. It will require a piece of red pipe wire, or any pipe wire, I guess. Oh no, dang it, I want to go to the factory. Crap. There we go. Going to have to, preferably as quickly as possible, grab some pipe wire from here. Actually got one. Good. So now we need to head down. So we need to fix this as quickly as possible, because this can mess with the running of the reactor, because it gets into the wrong step and it might turn on the reactor when it's supposed to turn it off, and we definitely do not want that. So we're going to put let's disable this. Now the reactor is off. So what we want to do is we want to put this, we move this down here, so we do that. Then we're going to say that, no, stop doing that. When there is less than 75%, we're going to output a red pipe signal. And when the red pipe signal is off, which will mean that there is more than 75%, because it's the inverse of this, we want to output a redstone signal. So now that turned on because it's less than 75%. I think this should work the way I expect it to. Maybe. So this is running, as you can see. We are producing superheated steam at 100 millibuckets per tick, input 200 heat units per tick. We're producing kinetic units here, and we are generating 100 EU per tick there and 50 here, so 150 EU per tick, which is pretty good. It's very good, actually. So now this is remaining on, which is keeping this off, because there's less than 75%. So once it goes down to 75% or 25%, goes below 25%, it's going to output another redstone signal, which is going to toggle this, turn the reactor on. Then once it gets above 75%, it's going to toggle this again. It should only toggle it once, I think. Oh. Okay, so this gate idea is not working out too well. What I might want to do instead is have a... Let's control this manually for now. What I might want to do instead is have a tank that I can use a comparator on, or that can be checked by a comparator, and use that output to detect the level instead of a gate. I could also use a microcontroller from Open Computers if I wanted to, but I think that is a little overkill for this, maybe. Also, that would use power, which might not be necessary. So now we've run through our buffer. The reactor is running constantly. We actually backed up on coolant, kind of look like. So I produced enough, but these buffers are not filling up, which is good, because if these fill up, these tanks fill up, the heat exchangers will stop outputting heat, because they can't process any hot coolant, because they have nowhere to put the cold coolant. And then the steam generator would stop, which would be a bad thing. Whoa. This might actually have filled up. Probably want to drain some coolant. I might have put in too much. Because what you saw was this filling up. This heat exchanger stopped outputting heat, so the boiler only got 100 millibuckets, or 100 heat units per tick, and thus it stopped working correctly, and we got explosions. And those explosions actually hurt. I might also want to put in separate pipes for each of these heat exchangers. I could put a plug here, and then have a pipe come out here and go into this tank here, and then make it a different color, of course, because as you can see, this pipe is blue. I have a blue pipe there, but I need a different color, such as red. Should actually work. So if we put these across like so, then we want a plug. Do I happen to have that? No, but I have structure pipes, so I can make some. We're going to take this out quickly, do that, put it back in, and then we're going to put a plug there for completion's sake. So now they will output into their own pipe, which should make sure that they can output at all times. How much have I drained out of here? 6 buckets. We can pull. Let's pull out 16 from the system in total, so that we have some margin, some extra room. It does look like we are losing hot coolant because this tank started emptying. So it does seem like the boiler cannot, or not the boiler, again with the boiler, the reactor cannot keep up with, and you can see it's running. It can't keep up with the processing system anymore, the new processing system. It's producing 192 heat units per second. Is that actually per second? I don't actually know. I would assume that is correct. But so what is that per tick? Let's do 190 divided by 20. 9.5 heat units per tick then. That's barely anything. That can't be correct. Can it? Did I do that the wrong way around? No, I shouldn't be. No. Now that had to be the right way around, but 9.5 heat units per tick, approximately, that cannot be correct. It has to produce more than that, I think. Maybe that is actually supposed to be per tick and not per second. Might be a mistake. I'm not sure. Because if it's producing 190 per tick, that would be less than the system is using. Because remember, we are producing 200, or this is processing or outputting 200 per tick, and there shouldn't be any loss in the coolant, I don't think. So we should be getting out as much as we put in. So if we so since it outputs 200, that means we have to produce less than 200 per tick since we have a loss. So this might be supposed to be per tick. So what I'm going to have to do, probably between this episode and the next one, is design a new layout for the reactor and probably upgrade to quad fuel rods, or maybe I should just add 2 more quad fuel rods. Move this over here, because these components can handle these rods. So if I just make another set of this and put it next to it, that should double the output of the reactor, still keep it safe, because I know this design works. So, but after this episode, I'm going to make those components, because I don't want to do that on camera, because that would be really boring, probably. And then in the next episode, we're going to put them in and run another test. Because yeah, we are losing, definitely losing hot coolant. Well, not losing, but you know, we're not producing it fast enough or heating it up fast enough. But yeah, so I'm going to turn this off. And I'm also going to have to come up with a better solution for this. So I'm going to have to find a tank which can be checked with a comparator, which is not a Railcraft tank, because having a Railcraft tank for, or a Railcraft tank, I mean, having a Railcraft tank for hot coolant would be a little overkill, I do believe. And there it shut down. Apparently there is some sort of imbalance when it stops receiving heat. That always happens. I would suspect it has something to do with the hoppers. Maybe. So that pretty much always happens on startup and shutdown when that there's an explosion or two. But yeah, so we have some time left. And we're pretty much done here. I guess we can head upstairs. We'll make a comparator and quickly see if we can find a tank that it works on. And that should be doable. We can use this hot coolant probably to do that. So what do we need for a comparator again? That's not how you spell that. There we go. We have a Project Red one and a vanilla one. I'll probably make a vanilla one because it's more likely to work with mods. So we need some stone, which I have quite a bit of. We need 3 redstone torches. I have 2 on me. I'm not entirely sure where I got those, but whatever. Probably made them for something, I would guess. Should have some nether quartz over here, as well as some redstone. Now I need a stick for a torch. And then we do that. Now we have 3 torches. Grab this. And we'll make a comparator. And I missed placing the last torch. There we go. So I do have a bunch of Railcraft tanks, so I suppose we'll test those first. Let's see, it should have some redstone here. So let's put the tank here, and then put the comparator here, and then some redstone. So if this works, the comparator should turn on when I do this. It actually does. Okay. So there is full, and so putting 15. And then as I empty it, so Railcraft tanks do work with comparators, which is absolutely wonderful. Now I wonder if one of these will work as well, because if possible, I would like to be able to put it on the wall, so I don't have to build a platform and stuff for it. So I can just have everything vertical. So I might want to make one of these as well. Now I should have these set up in here. So I need 4 of these, like so. Put these in here to be processed. The boiler is running currently because actually ran out of power, and I'd been out of power for so long that my I already had two in there probably. That my lights started shutting down. So some mobs spawned in here, which was a load of fun. By which I mean absolutely awful. What was the last piece? Alright, cathode. Apparently I need one of those as well. Oh dear. Seems we was on our way to a meltdown there. I forgot to turn off the reactor. I forgot I had it permanently on. So let's go down and fix that. Because this noise is really annoying. Going to have to go in here first and turn this off. And then we're going to go in here and turn this stupid alarm off. Which I say is stupid, but I'm still glad I have it, because if I didn't, the reactor would now have exploded, most likely, if there was no shut-off. And I do like having the alarm. Dang it, I want to do the factory again, not the workshop. Do like having the alarm because it makes me aware that something has gone wrong. Because otherwise the reactor would just shut down until it cools down again. Which would be fine, probably, but it's not a good idea to run it when something doesn't work correctly, because at some point one might make a mistake that makes things go boom. Now, hopefully this works. This gate, the comparator gate. We shall try this immediately as well. Let's try it over here. I would expect this to work as a normal comparator, but you never actually know how a mod block works, even if it is similar to a vanilla one. Okay, so it does work. Does work like the vanilla one. The question is, though, how will the red alloy wire work? Because it doesn't have 15 power levels like vanilla redstone wire. It has 256 or something like that. So I'm not sure how to do level detection with that. So I'm going to have to figure something out between this episode and the next one, and then we'll come back then to fix the level detection and implement the new reactor design as well, to make it produce more heat quicker. So with that, I will see you then.